Hey guys, back with episode 4. Episode 1 we talked about why we went with Tate, why we chose the book genre we did, why we did a lot of things before signing with Tate. The second episode was about the acquisitions phase, essentially signing and them getting our money. And the last episode, episode 3, dealt with our editing experience up through to now, which starts the layout experience, which means physical proofs are coming. So this phase was just one big fiasco after another. And up until this point, I was irritated, but I started to see little red flags that showed that this company was not who they purported to be. So I started to do things a little differently. I started to document everything physically because our contract does state that you can't be held to anything that's not in writing. So I worked harder to not that I didn't accept phone calls, but I worked harder to document the phone call conversations in an email to them. Now, granted, they didn't respond to an awful lot of them. There was our production manager, Abigail. There was a point in time in this process right here. I gotta look up the exact date. It was, I believe, April 7th to April 28th. We went 21 days without hearing from her, and I had sent her several emails in there. And then on April 30th, on May 4th, I still hadn't heard from her, and I had said that we haven't heard from you in a month, we need to know where we're at. So even though I made an effort to document things as should be done when you are dealing with someone that's a legal matter that involves your intellectual property, it should be in writing because it's real hard to prove word of mouth. So we still hadn't heard from her by then, but I kept writing and I kept documenting my questions and I kept documenting things I was sending to them because that's a proof of receipt right there that they got it, because we didn't get any rejection email back and it was sent to the right email address, and that's all documented. So we just tried to keep up with that. Now, when we got our layout, so for the month of January, I believe it was January 20th. We hadn't really heard much from her until January 20th, when she had said that it starts that month. We got an email on January 2nd saying, welcome to the layout process. We're ready to begin layout, whatever. And I had asked her questions about the layout process, and I kept asking them, and I kept asking them, and I got nothing in response. So I kept trying, obviously. On the 12th, I asked her a question, and I said, over the last 10 days, I've written you emails, and I've heard nothing back. And then on January 15th, she said, I've been ill, which is the same excuse she used in that month-long period where she didn't say a word to us. So, yeah, people might be sick. We just had 2 weeks of sickness in our house. I get it, but that can't always be. If this is a problem where you're not contacting authors or you don't have someone else to take your workload for an author, it's a problem. And your company's not running as it should. Your publishing house, your job is to communicate, by the way, I'm ill, I will be out of the office, or you need to have someone else step in and take care of your workload while you're out. And that just didn't happen. There was zero communication at all. So, on January 20th, let's see, that was when we decided that it would be done that month. She said that layout would be done that month, and it was, I know I'm not looking at you a lot because I've got, if you could just see my piles here, I've got my original manuscript, I've got my contracts that we signed that I'm going to get into, I've got my email, I've got my Attorney General stuff, I've got just a whole crap load of stuff. I'm like a smorgasbord of Tate information. So, the week of February 4th, she had said that we would get a proof within that week. Layout was done, we'd get a proof. On February 12th, I had to email her and say, where is it? You said it would be in there last week. We did not get it last week. Where is our proof? The next day, we got it. So that's often how Tate worked, is if you pressed and you got into them and you said, listen, you said this, I'm holding you to this, where is this? Then they would give it to you. With problems we're going to have later on that I'll go more into detail on, if we contacted the heads of the company and said, hey, this is a problem and it's a consistent problem, things would get done for a day, and then they would stop. So that's sort of what their MO was. So on February 13th, we got our first digital proof. There was, on our first one we got back, now granted, we already went through the editing stage, okay? On our first digital proof, there were 118 errors to correct, and they were added errors. We sent them our digital proof, we sent them our edited manuscript, our final edit. We signed off on the content approval. They should have changed nothing without our approval past then, but they did. I actually gave an example. I was reading through my emails before I did this. I gave an example where, well, first of all, the first digital proof we got back, there was 118 errors. The second one, there was 102 errors. So, and what I was doing was, when I would get the physical proof, I would make changes on my manuscript that I had in my Word program, and as well as making the comments on the manuscript. So my Word manuscript matched the PDF, the new version. So that's how I could see where they were adding things and taking away things. Now, one example I gave to our project manager, Abigail, was that there was, for the ingredient list, it was 2-LB. And my comment was, there doesn't need to be a dash there, please take the dash out. We got the next manuscript back and it was 2 space, no dash, they took the dash out, good job. Or it was 1 space LBS. So they took away the dash, but then they added an S. There was no S there. We didn't authorize adding an S. So then it read 1 pounds. So we had to ask them to take the S off. So it was like mistakes like that. The other mistake that I used as an example for her was, as we were going through, there was one sentence that just had a question mark in the middle. And my comment on the manuscript, or on the digital proof, was, there's a question mark in the middle of the sentence. There should be no punctuation whatsoever. It's the middle of the sentence. We got it back. They took out the question mark, but they added a period. So where the question mark was, there was now a period in the middle of the sentence. So it was things like that, where they would take our edits and they would do them sort of, but they would take away what we asked them to take away, but then they would add something else in. Or they would go to another section that was perfectly fine. We had no comments or no changes to make, and then we would get it back and there was a change made in there. So that's how it kept happening 7 times. I had to return that thing 7 times because they kept making mistakes like that. And I'm going to get more irritated as this process goes on. Sorry about that. But I was really, really upset at this point, and not upset like I'm going to cry. Like I was in fighting mode at this point, and I was looking for the big long email that I had sent out. But I haven't found it yet because I'm trying to look at you and not look down at my computer, because who wants to watch someone look at their computer? So there's also, on February 21st, we got an email saying, your photos have been approved. So we needed 4 approvals for our for our pictures. So that just that floored me. Now we get to the physical proof that we were getting along with this, you know. Our first digital proof we got back, there were no pictures in it. Which is why on February 21st I got the email. But when we first got it back on February 13th, there were no pictures in the flipping digital proof. So after making me submit them 3 times and getting them approved 3 times, they still didn't put them in. So I obviously immediately got with them and said, listen, they're not in this digital proof. Are they going to be in the physical copy? And then they said, oh, our editing department didn't put it into our system fully for you. They missed our, what did they say? I wrote it down because I was like, what? They said our photo team missed it. I'm just going to let that sit for a minute. Their photo team missed 3 of them. 3 different approvals. 3 different times of submitting them. They missed all 3 of them. So on February 21st, they sent me something saying, we got your photo approval. Now our first proof, a physical proof, no pictures. Second proof, pictures, but black and white. Now both of those physical proofs were on the wrong paper. We signed a contract, and I have it right here, because they fought with us on this. Right here. This is I know it's super faded. I don't even know if you can really see it, but it says interior paper, glossy. We signed it for glossy paper, and the paper wasn't glossy. And the second time, the pictures were black and white. Now the third physical proof we got, it was glossy paper, but it was colored pictures, but no glossy paper. And the fourth physical proof we got, it was glossy paper, colored pictures all in the wrong spot. So pictures were supposed to go in the middle because when you had them laid out, they came in funny. The book was too long, it was too heavy. When the last physical proof they sent us with the pictures underneath the recipes, the book was like 30 pounds. It was ridiculous. And we had asked several times, and I have this in my email where I went through it several times. I think I counted 9, where I said pictures in the middle. And at one point I realized maybe I'm making this too hard. Pictures not in the middle of each page, but lumped together in the middle as an insert, as our contract states. And they still couldn't get it right. So we originally had wanted our pictures with the recipes, and we asked them to send us a digital proof that way so we could see if it looked right, and it didn't. So we changed to middle of the book as an insert. It was agreed on. We still didn't get it. Now, Kurt Calloway, who is our new acquisitions editor, we weren't even notified that Courtney Disney was no longer our acquisitions editor. We just suddenly started getting emails from Kurt Calloway saying, "Oh, by the way, I'm your new guy." So I have some of his emails pulled up here. There they are. Our first email from him was December 23rd, 2014. So the image we had created for the back cover was not on there, still isn't to this day. That never got fixed, but we didn't care as much about that. We decided, maybe it's better this way, so we ignored that. But we had to fight to get color pictures. We had to fight to get glossy paper. Even though we signed off on both of those things, it was agreed on in September of 2014. We still had to fight to get our book that way. And then when they started coming, they kept saying it was a printer issue. It's a printer issue. It's a printer issue. The print shop didn't get it right. The print shop didn't get the memo. The print shop didn't get that it was supposed to be on each page. So back even before we got to marketing, that's what they were blaming it on. So that was our proof fiasco. And we shouldn't have signed off, but we did. The last physical proof we got was wrong, but it was glossy paper, colored pictures, and the pictures were just with their recipe. So the pictures were supposed to go in the middle, but everything else was right, so we just signed off. We said, don't worry about sending us another proof. We want to be done with this stage. Let's move on. So that was that was in May. So Terry Cordingley sent me. There was one. It was Welcome to Marketing. Sorry, one second. Yeah, it was June. June 20th was our first order, but there was a Welcome to Marketing that happened in May. And we started to do our website book trailer in June 25th. So the next, I'm going to talk about the price of the book and into marketing, because I see I went over. It's like 13-minute long video. Sorry about that, guys. So just to recap, digital proof had to be resent 7 times because they kept adding errors, changing errors, not doing it right. And we had to get 4 physical proofs before we got it right. The whole time it was blamed on the printer. So episode 5, we're going to talk about printing, marketing, and price of the book. Really irritating stuff, guys. You're in for a really good treat.